Good afternoon, Spurs Twitter, Spurs YouTube sphere, Spurs fans. This is Hasper TV here, your favourite Spurs YouTuber. And today I'm going to talk about my favourite player that's ever played for Tottenham Hotspur, obviously Eric Dier. As you guys know, as you guys know, Eric Dier has been rumoured to be signing a new contract at Tottenham. Um, yeah, let's just get into this because I'm just going to be quite ruthless here. And I'm just gonna say it how it is because I'm quite frankly I'm just sick of like watching players like him get new contracts. So let's just get into it. So let's not forget Eric Dier joined Tottenham Hotspur in Poch's first season in 2014. So he's been here for like 8 years. Now, when Dier first joined Tottenham, I think he played as a right back in his first game against West Ham, and people are like praising the club for signing this player because he joined for 4 million. It was pretty cheap. He actually wasn't a Pochettino signing, if we're being completely and brutally honest. He was a club signing because, of course, he was cheap. He was 4 million. They decided to sort of take a punt on him, and yeah, Eric Dier joined Tottenham back in 2014. And yeah, he had the odd good game back then. We actually played back four, so it was a bit different. Anyways, lo and behold, after Poch's first season, Dier ends up being like a mainstay in the season after that. In the Leicester season, you guys probably remember this. And he played in midfield alongside Moussa Dembele. Or, I say again, the year after that was with Wanyama. But Dier was converted into a midfielder because of the club actually not wanting to sign a defensive midfielder. People actually forget this. And yes, credit to Dier back then as a central midfielder, he was actually pretty good. He was all right in that position, but people also forget he was playing alongside Lewis and Dembele, which is a huge factor at the time because Dembele was the kind of player who'd get it. And yes, he didn't score the most amount of goals, he didn't create the most assists, but he kept the ball for Spurs at the time. And we played a more possession-based game back then, right, under Pochettino. Now, Dier, like I said, for 2, 3 years, he was sort of like he was in the team. But if we're being brutally honest, when Wanyama signed, he, like I mentioned, he did play alongside Wanyama, but he was more of a squad player. He would come in the odd game in midfield. He even had to spell the season after that playing in a back three alongside Toby and Jan. And I'm going to bring this up because it's very important alongside Toby and Alderweireld and Jan Vertonghen. He played on the right of the three, never played in the middle. Of course, when he played in midfield and he played in the middle and played a four, he dropped off. And then the two centre backs, Toby and Jan, sort of got wider. I mean, it was sort of like a 3-4-ish thing there as well. But let's be brutally honest, Dier was never actually good enough for Tottenham, even back then. He was at best a squad player, okay? And this is the big symptom of Spurs, and this is why Dier represents everything wrong with Tottenham. In this one player just represents everything wrong with Tottenham and the way we do business in any sense, right? So obviously Conte came in, Mourinho came in. Mourinho gave him the chance in a back four alongside, I think it was Alderweireld actually himself or Sanchez that he kind of rotated between the two. And Dier, you guys probably don't remember this, or if you don't want to remember this, but he made so many mistakes on Mourinho that in the end Mourinho dropped him for Joe Rodon. So again, Mourinho gave him a chance because they spoke the same language, and mainly because he actually liked Dier at Tottenham when he was at United. So he thought, let's give this guy a chance. But obviously, he didn't know what he was going to be like. Dier was awful under Mourinho. So again, another experiment with Dier failed. He's still at the club. We come to Conte now. Conte, you look at our defence, apart from Romero, and okay, we've got Longley on the left now on the loan from the summer, but he has very limited options. And Dier, because he can sort of, we say play this position, I'm going to be pretty honest in a minute, but he's been put in the middle of the three, right? And Conte got something out of him because obviously he got the new manager syndrome. Players want to impress the new manager. Dier actually wants to stay at Tottenham, which is kind of a problem in itself. And the funny thing is, Dier doesn't even count as homegrown, I don't think. So I don't know why we want to keep him. And then Dier comes in, plays in the middle of the three. He's got Longley on the left or Davies, because Davies can't really play in the middle of the three. And you've got Romero on the right, and then there's lack of cover there on the right centre back side because you've got Sanchez and Tanganga. And Sanchez again, he's not a kind of player who can play in the middle. Romero can play in the middle, but then if you play Romero in the middle, who can play on the right? Tanganga's an option, but he proved the other day that for most people, he wasn't the man for the job playing on the right of the back three. So again, we look at Dier. Now, the biggest symptom and the problem with giving Dier a new contract is basically giving the impression that we're not going to sign a new centre back in the middle, and that is the biggest issue in the back three, facing Conte and facing us as fans. Like Dier, mistake aside against Brentford, he's done mistake after mistake after mistake after mistake after mistake after mistake after mistake over the past years. This season, I can think of the Liverpool one off the top of my head. I've been ranting about. Dier is not. He's not. It's not like there's no benefit to give Dier a new contract. He's not actually count. He doesn't actually count as homegrown. He's not good at all. He's been at the club for 8 years. He's never been a mainstay in the team, and he's only a mainstay now because we haven't replaced the players that we let go in Alderweireld and Vertonghen. So why are we giving Dier a new contract? It just baffles me. If the club had any ambition, they would sell Dier in January for any sort of money they can get, and that counts for Sanchez as well. Maybe the loan Tanganga at most, loan Tanganga, and you're going out there and doing what Liverpool did back in 2018, 2019, when they got Van Dijk on a big 75 million and finally fixed their defence. If Spurs were an ambitious club, they would do that. They would not give Eric Dier a new contract. And like I said, Eric Dier is the biggest issue himself. A player who's continuously failed in numerous positions, who somehow, through more quality players leaving the club, has become a regular in the side, who still, whilst being a regular, has made probably the most mistakes out of everyone else, who's playing in a position which, quite frankly, is probably the most important position in the Conte system, apart from the wing backs, and is still failing. And yet, the player making the most mistakes in the most important position, arguably, is being rewarded a new contract. How does this make any sense? So someone explain to me how this makes any sense. It's because the club don't want to improve on that player. Because Dyer is happy to stay. Dyer even said, "Oh, when I die, I want my ashes to be on Tottenham." Well, yeah, great. I don't care that you want your ashes to be on Tottenham. I care that you actually perform on a bloody pitch. Just sell Dyer. Why are we giving you a contract? It baffles me so much. And for me, giving Dyer a new contract is the biggest representation of why Spurs fail, because we're rewarding failure in players who've overstayed their welcome. Dyer is a massive example of that. At least credit to Davies. Yeah, he's not the best, but at least he makes a lot less mistakes than Dyer, and at least he's happy if he sits on the bench every so often, because he knows that someone like Longley is probably going to be better than him. But Dyer even himself thinks he's good, and I think that's absolutely delusional. How he made the England squad, I do not know, and that hasn't helped us really as fans to push him out, because he's got an England place, and Levy might think, "Oh, it's great, he's got an England place. He's an England international. We need to keep him on the books and protect our assets." Well, let's face it, this asset, when you say asset, it's not the right word maybe for Eric Dier, but he's not really an asset. He's a liability. Dier is a liability in the back three. He's a liability for the club. We need to just get rid of him. How he's got a new contract, I do not know. If you guys have any thoughts about this, please leave in the comments. Why do you think Dier's been given a new contract? I've given my explanation as to why I think why, because it's the easier way out, essentially, for the Spurs. But can someone explain to me this thinking? Because Dier, for me, like I said, is a representation of what is wrong with Tottenham Hotspur. Giving Dier a new contract is an embodiment of what is wrong with Tottenham Hotspur. Bye.